Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor for me to be here with you today. And I think we are on a packaging show. So the key question is, can packaging play a role in reducing the food waste? Is this part of the solution or part of the problem? And in the second part of the presentation, I would like to give you some very, very concrete examples how to change of packaging you can considerably reduce food waste around the globe. I will give you examples from the developing countries as well as from our so-called developed countries. Before I'm doing that, a few words about myself. I'm an economist working on international organizations since more than 30 years, starting in industry, then working for United Nations Environment Program, now being back to industry associations like the European Aluminium Foil Association and like Flexible Packaging Europe. We represent about 110 companies from Russia to Spain and from Scandinavia down to Italy. So we are covering the whole EU. And we are active in market analysis, market research, communication, but also sustainability. And on the food waste side, we have been a founding member of the Safe Food Initiative of Messe Düsseldorf. We should not forget when we talk about food waste, what are the mega trends? So I will take you through the mega trends, the food waste problem, the Safe Food Initiative, the role of packaging, what can we do to reduce food waste by packaging, and our own commitment. We should please not forget that we have a global trend to urbanization. When we talk food waste, we should not forget that the first job is to ensure that people get hygienic, safe food in all these mega cities, and this will go on. In 2010, we had 5 people out of 10 living in mega cities. In 2030, it will be 6. In 2050, it will be 7. The first question is how to bring the food in a resource-efficient way to these people. If you look into how big these cities are, in 1950, you had only 5 cities with more than 5 million inhabitants. In 20, you already had 80. So this needs different answers to ensure that safe and hygienic food comes to the consumer. How to bring food to these people? Local agriculture. How to make sure that the food they get is hygienic and safe and is eaten and not wasted. These are the logistics conditions out there. Don't forget that in very few time, half of the population around this world lives in Asia. And that is the way they sell it. Small portions because they cannot afford a lot. And that is what we have to serve first, under the condition to reduce food waste. The food waste problem. Those who listened to the speakers before, like Robert and Helen, and they told you that between 30 to 40% of all food produced around the world is not eaten. I can tell you, in my membership, if any company would have an inefficiency of 30 or 40% in its business, it wouldn't survive. It is the biggest luxury we have, that we allow 30 to 40% of food wasted. This is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Yeah? What does it mean? If these 30 to 40% of food produced as a region would be bigger than China. Next time you look to the global map and you see the square meters of China, that reflects in approximately the hectares we plant and grow today food and don't eat it. And that is the reason, I think, when that was more and more realized, that the Safe Food Initiative at Messe Düsseldorf was started. Started by Messe Düsseldorf with FAO, United Nations Environment Program, joined later on. And today we have, I think, roughly 300 members, organizations supporting it. committing to the objective to reduce food waste. And this is already after 3 years. I think it's great. And all the awareness raising, which I have heard before here in this conference, is great. Because the first step is awareness. If we don't realize what we waste, we will not change it. And that is one of the major jobs of the Safe Food Initiative from Messe Düsseldorf and Interpack. I start with developing countries, so-called developing countries. Kenya. I had the honor to live in Kenya for 2 years, so I know what I'm talking about. Out of the mangoes, they get ripe within 2 months, 2.5 months. All mangoes are ripe. You can't eat so much mangoes as you could harvest there. And there is no technology to process and pack it. So fact is that as of today, 64% of the whole potential harvest of mangoes is rotten. Just because there is no logistics, there is no knowledge about how to process it. There's also no market because people can't eat more mangoes. So within the initiative, we came together, we defined countries, it was a long study to select a country and then to select a product where we start to do something rather than just making awareness. We were sitting around the table and saying, what can we do with the mangoes? We can make juice. We can dry them. What is the best? How can we export? Because if we sell it in Kenya, we kill the local market. And what could we do? The supply chain in Europe, organized in Interpack, they have the knowledge how to process the food, how to pack the food, maybe how to export the food. And I'm very proud, you're one of the first ones to see dried mangoes now, out of this, which otherwise would have been rotten, which thanks to a Kenyan entrepreneur, we gave the knowledge, we gave some capital. They now know how to process it, how to dry it, how to pack it. This packaging comes from one of my member companies. And they are now going to export that. And so the objective is to reduce 45% of the otherwise rotten mangoes. This would halving the food waste. And we believe that within this initiative, we can do similar things, bring together interested parties, think about what makes sense, and using the knowledge to make tailor-made solutions to reduce food waste. Obviously, as a European organization, we are much more, I should not forget to give some credits to the companies who are involved and who gives the knowledge to make that happen. And I'm a little bit proud there's only one association around the globe who is supporting it, and this is Flexible Packaging Europe. The role of packaging. There are so many myths out about packaging. One myth out is fresh food is always better than packed food. And fresh food has less losses than packed food. Scientifically, this is wrong. And if you go to a market at the end on a Saturday morning, if the market closes, the fresh food market closes at 2 o'clock, please go there at 2 o'clock and have a look of the food which is wasted. If that food is processed in an industrial process, not 1 gram of all these vegetables would be wasted. It will be used for different kind of processes, energy, feeding food for animals or whatever. The losses in that is zero, close to zero. These are examples from the US Department of Agriculture, not industry source, US Department of Agriculture. Fresh food losses in sweet corn, 32%. Canned, 7%. Peaches, fresh loss 42%. Canned, 8%. I know many people don't believe that a cucumber with some plastic wrapping is a good thing. But you increase considerably the shelf life. Look to the left, how bananas look after 7 days. How many of the rich countries would eat bananas looking like this if you have them packed? And the resources you need for the packaging compared to one banana you are throwing away is 10 to 100. It's ridiculously less. The same for the cucumber. The shelf life is extended from 3 days to 14 days. If you buy on a Saturday for the week, if you buy 2 and you eat only 1, with packaging, you can eat it 2 weeks after. Without, you throw it away. And going more often shopping, as just challenged, is maybe a solution, but you also think about transport and your driving energy, because then you go for each banana to the supermarket. Big question mark whether this is overall more resource efficient. I doubt that very much. Austria, public financed research institute Denkstadt, and most of the examples are now coming from them. They reduced the food waste by 50% at the retail level, what the retailer throws away and has to take out of the shelves. They reduced by 50% by using a plastic wrap. Fresh or packed? Sorry, it gets a little bit complicated, but we are on a packaging conference, and packaging is a high sophisticated scientific issue. You all buy cheese, and emotionally I also like the cheese more, which is not packed, but the packed bun is more resource efficient and is reducing food waste. Packed portions of 150 grams of sliced cheese reduce food waste from 5% to 0.14. Because otherwise, the retailers have to get out the fresh and unpacked cheese. And overall, by portion of cheese, the CO2 footprint, climate change, climate gas, the CO2 footprint by portion of cheese goes down by 40%. Although you invest a little bit more into packaging, but you save so much on reducing the food waste. And imagine how much cheese is eaten in your country and all the other countries, and then you get the figure you can achieve by more intelligent packaging. So according to scientists, over 30% of fresh food becomes waste, while only 10% of packed food becomes waste. But the problem is, nobody really wants more packaging. Sealed Air, one of the market leaders in US, they made a research, and 89% of consumers, and probably 100% in this auditorium, think the real problem is the packaging, maybe the packaging waste. So that investing in packaging is harmful to the environment and not solving the problem, but it's just the other way around. My CO2 footprint in Europe, I'm a consumer like you. 30% of my CO2 footprint in Europe comes from my food consumption. 30% of mine, of yours. And we just heard that 30% of the food is wasted, which means 10% it's in your capability. You by yourself, if you reduce your food waste to 0, you can reduce your own CO2 footprint as a consumer in Europe by 10%. It's unbelievable, a lot. However, the perception out is we do not want more packaging. Yes, we need to reduce climate change. Yes, wasting food is bad, but I'm not wasting food, never. This is the reality out there. And Helena, who just gave a speech 2 hours before, she is making now interviews with consumers. Do you think you waste food? And at the very end of the questionnaire, she has the best question ever. Can I check your waste bin? And then you see the difference between reality and perception. I love it. I'm really waiting for the results of that study. So I think I already said that this 10% depends on your behavior. If you reduce your food waste to 0, you can reduce your own CO2 footprint as a consumer by 10 percent points. And now what about the role of packaging and filling goods? You see here so-called life cycle analysis, very complicated, scientific based, for butter, for roast pork, for chocolate, for coffee, as a pouch, as a stick, lasagna and goulash soup as a pouch. And it's a CO2 footprint. One of these columns is always the CO2 footprint for one portion of butter. The red part of each column belongs to packaging. The blue part belongs to the production of the food. So if you make a mistake in the packaging, too thin, not appropriate, and you have to throw away the food, you will throw away all the resource rucksack which is in there. So normally, part of the normal food, as an average, packaging plays between 2 to 10% of the CO2 footprint for a given food product. So by investing in that, you are saving 90 to 98% of the filling with the whole environmental rucksack. I will come back to wine later on. Most of you would like wine. Think about how many resources go into production of wine. Water, fertilizers, transport. Don't throw away one glass of wine. Only if it's cork taste. By the way, all that is stamped by United Nations Environment Program and LCA CETAC. CETAC is the global organization of scientists making life cycle analysis. So the worst thing you can do is under-packaging, risking to throw away the bananas, the milk, the chocolate, because then you throw away all the resources to produce these foods. And a little bit of over-packaging makes sure that you don't do it. Of course, you should optimize it on exactly the optimum. This is like the Austrian, which I quoted before. Even if improved packaging solutions, for the packaging you increase your CO2 footprint, it's counterbalanced by the savings of the food waste you can realize. I give you some more concrete examples on that. Before, of course, it plays also a role how efficient you do it in the packaging. And I just saw a pouch lying around here and thrown away, maybe because many people think you can't recycle it. And a can would be better, which you can recycle with, in Europe, 70, 80%. A can is 20 gram. 80% recycling means 4 gram loss. The pouch is 1 gram. Even if you don't recycle, you lose only 1 gram of material. It's not about recycling, it's about loss of material in the cycle. And then you always have to see where you come from. If you recycle from 100 gram, 80%, you lose 20 gram. If you can do the same packaging with 10 gram, without recycling, you are better. Also, if you look into the environmental impact later on, you can see that in this study which I'm presenting here. It's another myth. It's not about recycling, it's about losses of packaging in the circle, packaging material. Some optimizations. We talked about shelf life. This is a classical one, where you just by extending shelf life, you ensure that you don't throw so much milk away. And I liked all these examples with the refrigerators, but I don't think that the solution is that you take it from the back to the front. I believe in a packaging which gives you a signal. Eat me now. can be done. It may be a little bit more expensive, but if we say the highest objective also from the food producers and the retailers is to reduce food waste, it can be done. At expiry date, it gets from blue to red. The techniques are there. And then you are sure that you grab the right one in the refrigerator. Portion packs, especially in countries like Asia, they cannot afford to buy 1 liter. They do not have refrigeration. So you have to make sure that you offer the right portion size, which is quite often even buying 1 cube of soup, not 20 or 10 like you have here. They buy it by cube because they do not have the spendable income available. And shelf life again. No refrigerator, no cooling chain, and portion pack. That is the solution. Who loves olive oil? Be honest. Come on. Okay. How much do you drop if you put it on your bread? Or in your salad? How much goes around the bottle? A solution is make sure that the spout makes sure that the olive oil really ends in your salad and not going down the bottle. Wine. Who likes wine? Even more than olive oil. I'm really astonished. You know that everybody thinks a corked wine is the best wine. But how many people get corked wine open and throw the wine away? It's between 2 and 5% according to EU Commission figures. You can completely change that if you change the closure. If you take an aluminium closure, screw cap, you can reclose the bottle. You are not wasting 1 drop, and for sure you will have no food waste due to cork taste. And please again, think about what's behind the wine. Growing, fertilizing, watering. So, and here you can see, many people then say, I compare the cork with the closure. And that is the blue bar. If you just compare the cork with the closure on the CO2 footprint level, the closure is the loser because you have to produce them while the cork is growing. But if you take into consideration how many food waste you reduce, the other solution is better. So it's a very, very complex subject. And I want to alert you for this complexity because it's always so easy to say A is good and B is bad. That is not the case. You really have to go into the details. What food is most wasted? It's meat, it's cheese, it's bread, and vegetables, I think are the key things. And now I'm showing you some research done by Denkstadt in Austria, published very recently. Yeah. By changing the packaging, also taking thinner materials, in total, they reduced the food packaging waste at retail level by 50% by more intelligent packaging. And I think this is the challenge. Bread. I like also to buy my bread every morning in the bakery. And the next morning I buy again, and quite often I buy 2 and only eat 1.5. Again, by changing the packaging to a more sophisticated packaging, they managed to reduce the weight, the food losses of this bread is now 0.8%. Before it has been 11% in the shelf. That is a role packaging can play. And what I like so much about the whole Safe Food initiative is that I'm in this business since 15 years. People start to develop packaging in a different way. In their targets is now, how do I reduce food waste? They have a rethinking, and this will change a lot of these things. You all, the ladies here, I guess you are cooking more than the gentlemen, but maybe it's a prejudice, I don't know. And you like to do it with fresh herbs. Here, the food waste by better packaging was reduced from 42% down to 3.4%. Chicken meat. Yes, it's more packaging because you have two compartments. But this is portioning. The waste reduction is huge, and you only invest a little bit more, 0.5% in the packaging. But if you just reduce 14% of food waste, this would be already balanced. And normally most of us in this room don't eat the same food every evening. I don't like these offers, buy 2 for 1. Who of us is eating 2 pizzas the same evening? This is the same example here. It's very technical, but the message here is, this is I think a turkey packaging. Of course it comes from UK, they love turkeys, yeah? And within that packaging, it is also a description for the consumer what to do with the leftover. He can use the packaging to store the leftover, and he gets also advice on the packaging what to do with the leftover, which is awareness building again. This is very common in US, doggy bags. But if you go to South Europe, I've never seen a doggy bag. This is an initiative in Italy where some towns, cities, and producers of these aluminum trays came together and said, all the leftovers in the restaurants, we offer to take home in containers, and you also get a description how to heat it up, how you can store it. Awareness raising and reducing food waste at the same time. These are a few examples I'm aware of, and in 3 years' time, when the next Scanpack is, I'm sure I would have much more, because I see much more innovation and developing going that way. And I also hope that we then have at least a second project in developing countries to continue what we have started in Kenya. The 2 organizations I'm running have published all our scientific work we did on that on our websites. On the left, the foil side, on the right, the flexible packaging side. I'm not a good communicator and speaker, so we decided we need also some animation videos. It's much more fun to listen to these animation ladies than to listen to my scientific presentation. So next time you have a boring telephone conference, you all have boring telephone conferences, go to the website, have some fun. Don't tell the other side of the line. So, we are proud to be a Safe Food member of Messe Düsseldorf and Interpack. We support them actively globally to present solutions we are believing in, which is not charity, which is changing business, optimizing on the key spots we have to do. And to some extent, I'm proud to say that we are the only association so far really investing in these projects. It was a pleasure to be with you. I'm ready to share a few dried mangoes from Kenya. Maybe everybody of you can get a bite, so after the presentation you are free to join me for enjoying mangoes from Kenya. Thank you very much.